Welcome to our presentation of our breathing unit MythoVent 2. First of all, I would like to introduce you the main connections of the device. On the back side, we have the interfaces for the air, oxygen and the main power. On the front side, there is space for a cassette. Here we can use dual or coaxial cassettes. The connectors on the front lower part of the unit are for the whole monitoring of vital parameters, the temperature, IBP, SpO2 and ECG. Here is the connector for NIBP, nebulizer and the cough regulation. Now we're switching on the unit. We are using a coaxial cassette. We slide it in and switch on the unit. The unit is now ready to be started. We can push any of the buttons now and see directly the unit in self-testing. The leak tightness of the hose system is under control and the valve's functionality is being tested. After the successful passing of the test, all points are marked with OK. Now you see the general screen. It is divided into the curve field and numeric fields. We have a possibility to display up to 8 curves. It means we have 6 places for the curves. Some of them can be displayed in one field. On the right side, you see the measured values: breathing pressure, frequency, volume, etc. There are lots of control elements for breathing. As example, I would like to explain the MMV mode with the settings for the oxygen concentration. In pressure settings, there's a pressure limit, the pressure supports offset on the PEEP itself, then the volume settings, tidal volume, minute volume, flow, breathing frequency and inspiration time. The volume settings and the time depend on each other, so that if I change one parameter, the others will be adopted automatically. We have seen now that when changing the volume, the minute volume would adopt to that, as well as the necessary flow to reach the preset volume. We activate the ventilation. We set the cursor to the start ventilation and start ventilation through the spinning knob. Now we see the supported ventilation of the unit, the pressure curve, the flow curve and the volume curve. By pressing the alarm bell, the alarm menu will be opened. We see here the overview for all alarms and their threshold for peak, PEEP, mean, etc. The bell symbol shows if alarm is switched on or was deactivated. We see here 2 thresholds, the lowest threshold value and the highest threshold value. In the middle there is a trend of the last 30 minutes, based on which you can set up new thresholds which are required for the patient. You can also retrieve the list of last 10 alarms. The cuff is being inflated automatically according to the patient's physiological characteristics. I switch on the cuff and activate it. Here you see some more settings: pressure offset for the pressure control, the minimum and the maximum pressure settings. Now you see the white curve over the pressure curve. This pressure curve shows the pressure in the cuff. By pressing the cuff, we can see the move of the white curve. The right pressure level is provided in the cuff in this way. Now I will show you the function of our intelligent nebulizer. The nebulizer is connected via a standard connector and, like the cuff, has to be activated. Select Nebulizer in the respiration menu and adjust the duration of nebulization. You can see a clock that counts down to 2 minutes. Up here you see a nebulizer icon. This icon changes color when the nebulizer is active. At each inspiration, one can see the color change in the nebulizer icon. The unit has an automatic compensation of the nebulizer volume. Now we go through the other ventilation settings. We see here the settings for the pressure trigger, the flow trigger, and the expiratory trigger for the duration of pressure support. Another menu point is the trend menu. Here you can see the graphical trend of the measured values up to 96 hours of functioning in the past. If we want to enable the patient-related O2 and CO2 measurements, we have to open the Settings ventilation menu and change the O2 CO2 source to patient. Here you can see two possibilities, internal and patient option. Now the sample gas is drawn over the water trap on the back of the device. I now remove the hose from the test lung and breathe myself. Now we can see the CO2 curve on the screen. Below is the monitoring area. We see the buttons for the various monitoring functions and connections. We have twice temperature, twice IBP, SpO2 and ECG. The buttons correspond to the buttons of the ventilation. Here are the alarm stop button, the alarm menu button, the button for the settings, and a quick reach button for an IBP. First we will adjust the configuration screen for monitoring. I will change the screen configuration accordingly. The curves for ventilation are not necessary now. Therefore I open the display menu, the menu for the curves, and select 6 fields anew. I overwrite the existing 6 fields with curves for ECG lead, second lead, third lead. I choose curve 4 as 5th lead. Curve 5 SpO2 and curve 6 will include 2 curves, but I choose only IBP1. Next I will connect a patient simulator to demonstrate ECG. I connect a 5-lead ECG and immediately we see the corresponding ECG curves. The measured value fields are displayed in a similar way. Here we see the heart rate with 59 Hz, the active lead, and here the leads for separate curves 2, 3 and 5. For the ECG we have a separate menu. Here we can set the source for the heart frequency. Auto means that depending on what we have connected, the source for calculation of the heart rate is selected automatically. We can set heart rate lead, the amplitude, various filters are available, the pacer signal. If a pacemaker pulse is detected, a small icon will appear, and finally the volume of the QRS beepers. We also have the possibility to perform ST analysis. I'll perform the example of a lead. After a short wait, the ECG curve appears and we can measure the curve. Here we see the measured voltage curve. In the next menu we have the possibility to turn on and off various arithmetics and define different limits. Next we will look at the IBP function. We use again the patient simulator and connect the two channels. Immediately we see both IBP curves in the 6 curve field. The red BP1 and the blue IBP2. The two curves are shown overlapped in this field. The special menu exists for IBP functions divided into IBP1 and IBP2. Here you can calibrate the sensors and choose the type of the connector. This designation is applied to the measurement field. AT for IBP1 and CVP for IBP2. The next parameter we'll look at is the temperature. The temperature is displayed in a separate measurement field. We will program this measured value in the empty space. To do this, I open again the display menu, this time the menu for the curves. The next parameter we'll look at is the temperature. To view the temperature, we first have to turn on the corresponding measured value field. We see a blank field here that we will use. I open again the settings menu. I move the cursor on the blank field and select the temperature measurement field. We see here the measured value field for the temperature field. Next I will connect two temperature sensors. Shortly afterwards the two temperature values will appear. I take both sensors in the hand and try to raise the temperature. We see the temperature increase immediately. In the middle, use the temperature difference between the two sensors. There's even a menu for the temperature parameters. We open the temperature menu. Here we can set the names separately for both sensors. In our case, the skin and axial. The next parameter we'd like to look at is the SpO2, the SpO2 curve and the SpO2 measurement field. I will now connect this Nelco finger clip sensor for testing. The SpO2 curve appears. There's currently no valid signal because first I have to put the sensor on the finger. A few seconds later we see the signal. The blood oxygen saturation and the heart rate. As with other parameters, we also have here a setup menu here, SpO2, in which we can set the QRS beeper and the volume. As the last parameter, we would like to look at an IBP. I will connect the cuff now. Before we start the measurement, we will look at the menu. Here we can make various settings: the cuff pressure, the start-stop setting, the mode, the interval time, and the end signal. Finally, we want to start the measurement. That's what we do over the NIBP key.